Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library. And today we have a great guest on because I think this is something that people see it happen. If you've ever watched racing, you see what happens in the pit crew, but you really have very little understanding on, what all goes into that, the stuff behind the scenes. And, those things that happen behind the scenes are, very critical to things that are comparable to other aspects of business. So it's great to have one of the co-founders of Deck Leadership, who is also a pit crew leader in NASCAR on. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey man, Terrell, thanks for having me. Appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Now, before we jump into talking about deck leadership, can you tell us a little bit about your background and, how did you become a pit crew leader in NASCAR?
Yeah, well, the word pit crew leader still kind of horrifies me a little bit. I didn't set out to be a leader. I've always said I'd be a good vice president. I don't like being in charge, but I played football in college. Went to Appalachian State. When I was graduating from there, I tore my ACL twice, and I just didn't feel like I got the use out of my body, athleticism, energy, all that. So I kept training, kind of against any any common sense. Like I didn't have the stats. I was injury prone, but I don't know. I just kept going, and that got me into a workout in Indianapolis in front of a bunch of scouts. And the guy that I trained with for that ended up getting hired by a race team. And when I got back from that workout, I had opportunities to play professionally in like Arena League and Europe, things like that. But he said, "Come check out this race shop thing. We're adding some pit crews next year. We want them to be athletes." And I didn't know anything about it. I never watched a race, never been to a race. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Right. So I, one of the things that Sean and I try to live by is that fortune favors the brave. You don't necessarily have to have been to a race or have the background or the academic acumen to start a business or to take a leap of faith. You know what I mean? But just having the courage to do so is half the battle a lot of times. And so started there as a just kind of trying to learn a developmental pit crew guy. I'd say about 7 years in. Um, Walking by a pit practice one day. We have at a lot of the places multiple teams kind of practicing or racing out of one facility, and so we had our main Cup Series pit crew program, but then there was an affiliate group of Truck Series and Xfinity teams that were practicing, and their coach had just quit unexpectedly as I was walking by, and they were like, "All right, well, who's going to coach us?" I'm like, I don't know. Uh, Sounds like a tough problem. You guys need to figure it out. But so long story, I ended up taking that kind of job, not really wanting it or asking for it. And then Sean, ironically, was in the same spot and did the same thing with another team. And a few years later, Chip Ganassi Racing called and said, "Hey, we want you guys to take over our Cup Series program." So we've been here for about 7 years and inherited a team that was had a lot of talent, but was underperforming, a lot of entitlement, a lot of selfishness, and a lot of egos. And we tried to change it. Our whole goal was like, if we can change the culture around, we might be able to do something. And within 3 years, we had top five teams.
Wow.
And it wasn't that we had a crazy budget or that there was resources. A lot of times those things aren't the prerequisites to being successful. It's not that you have to go get the highest paid person. It's that your environment, the culture that you all work in, has to be pulling in the same direction, and it has to be people that enjoy being around each other. And so we had to get rid of cancers, and so so that's kind of catapulted into us being able to tell that story. 2017, Sean and I were invited to speak at the NFL Combine, and we didn't want to go. We weren't pit crew coaches, we weren't pit crew members, we weren't public speakers, but we're like, why not? If they asked us to go, if it's horrible, who cares? uh, and it went really well. And what we realized is that we actually had a story to tell. That what we had done wasn't normal, and so we kind of just started Deck Leadership on the side, just to another avenue to continue what we had been doing here with the team, but just trying to tell this story that your culture matters and that kindness wins, and that if you have diversity, as a core part of who you are. You have the ability to see different perspectives and ideas in a way that can make your team efficient. And so it was like, okay, kindness, diversity, efficiency, culture. I mean, that's DEC. That's an acronym. It's really cool. So that's what DEC leadership is. So working with a couple of pretty big name companies, pharmaceutical mainly, and then like owner operator, big manufacturing, just trying to help them understand that if you put your people over your process, you got a chance.
Wow, wow. I think that that is very interesting. Now, for I guess for the listeners, I mean, can you explain a little bit on, like, say, when you talk about, going through the practices and with a pit crew team, like, what does a practice actually look like with a pit
Yeah,
crew team?
so it's a full simulation. We have two pit practice cars at Chip Ganassi Racing that are dedicated only um, to practice. They're our race cars, and so we beat them up. We are usually out there about 3 days a week. The flow of the week is generally you race on the weekends. Monday is like a yoga kind of a debrief, mobility kind of day. We have film study. We have a data analytics team that's always looking at metrics on how to get faster, how to improve our tools, processes, things like that. Uh, Drill sessions. Wednesday is a big team competitive practice with all of our crews together and a big workout. Thursday is more of a polished practice, generally off Friday, and then out again on the weekends. And so it kind of flows like a football week where it's heavy on the weekends, and then you have a lot of work and volume and practices and things like that midweek. And we're changing 4 tires, 18 gallons of gas, and 12 seconds.
Oh,
And
wow.
we refer to ourselves as the department of unrealistic expectations because they expect us to be perfect every time. And that's tough, and so a big part of what we say is fail quickly. Like, failure is coming. We're in the failure business. You're going to have these moments where you miss it on the right side of the car. Well, you got to come back and be solid on the left, or you miss it in one pit stop and make the next one solid, and so um, our week looks a lot like probably anybody else's, whether that's a teacher or a nurse. You're looking at places where the expectations are here, but maybe your capacity to do it's here, and you have to operate at that high level. And so it's a challenge that we all embrace and accept.
Okay. Just to set the, I guess set the stage. Okay. The cars coming in, they're in the middle of a race. I mean, you got 12 seconds to change all 4 tires, plus fuel it with gas, and then get it back up and running, plus also have a zero tolerance for mistakes. I mean,
Right.
is that pretty much the stage?
That's it, man. I mean, we Darlington Raceway about two years ago, we had the fastest pit stops. I think we did 11 pit stops that night, and 10 of the 11 were top of the field, to where we either, if we didn't come in first, we left first. Like, we were number one all night. The very last pit stop, Brad Keselowski, the number two car, their pit stop was 0.41 faster than ours, and we went from first to second, and nobody would talk to for a couple weeks. 0.4.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
just, it was like we had failed and completely missed the day. We had been perfect, almost the entire day, but that 0.4 was a huge, it was a huge misstep for us, and we missed it. And it's something that we had to learn from and come back. And it made me reevaluate, like, man, how many times do you have to sit and wait to check out at a line at Lowe's or Harris Teeter or something like
Yeah.
that? And no one seems to care, but I'm getting yelled at and my job's on the line for 0.4. If you blink your eyes as fast as you can twice, that's 0.4. But that's the
Wow.
world we live in. And that's what, that matters. I mean, you look at like the Daytona 500, the difference between the first and sixth place is about 56 feet. And
Oh,
that's two
wow.
tenths of a second traveling at 190 miles per hour. And that difference is $1.1 million, 2 tenths of a second.
Wow. Wow. I mean, those are pretty high stakes. I mean, so translating that, that type of culture, what you had to do to develop a winning team there into, you know, what businesses and organizations can do, what's kind of the reception that you see that organizations have when you guys come in with deck leadership and take them through that training?
Yeah. So one of the things we just like to get out of the gate is that speed is the currency of business. And so while we might not be experts in business, we're experts in speed. And our goal is not to say, hey, we're going to give you applicable things that are going to directly relate to the business that you do every day. But there are these like just kind of foundational principles that we live by that I think are translatable, you know, and a lot of them aren't necessarily like I spent a lot of time talking about things like transparency. And one of the biggest stories there is just we had a tire changer combo that was just a little bit off, and guys that had each other's best interests at heart. And it took a while, but finally they started saying, all right, well, man, I can't pick up my lug nut patterns as quickly as maybe some of the other guys because his shoulders are so big. And then the other guy's like, well, he's big too, so his legs in the way. So I have to put my shoulder in the way to get the tire on. It's like, man, this is great. Thank you for talking. You know, like this is important. And the very next stop is 0.2 of a second faster on each side, which gives us 0.4. Well, I just told you that 0.4 means a lot to us,
Yeah.
you know? And so when I tell a story like that, it's like, whatever your business is, it's a game of margins or inches or just little small, a tiny thin line that separates successful outcomes or just missing it, right? And a lot of times that answer for those guys, it was in the room. Like we had the answer, we just weren't talking about it. So like, what are you not talking about in your business? You know, like what idea do you have that you may be like tentative or scared, or you don't want it to get shot down, or the last time you took a leap, it didn't work, or somebody said it was a dumb idea. Like the thing that you might be sitting on right now might be the thing that makes your company exceptional
Wow.
for
Wow.
us. You know, so it's like, so these are the kind of things that I like to talk about. And it's, yeah, we can talk metrics and data and all that stuff. I get bored with all that. I'd rather talk about how you're taking care of yourself.
Mhm. No, that's amazing. And now, you know, for people that are interested to, you know, see what DAC leadership is up to and what you guys got going on, or to invite you in to do a training, where can they find you online or on social media?
Yeah, it's deckleadership.com. So simple. We got Instagram and Facebook. I we need to do more with it, probably tell more of the story of what we're doing, but we're getting there. It's small. We just kind of really started to get going this year. Our book 12-Second Culture has helped us get into a lot of conversations, so that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, man, we're just getting started. We're new too. You know, we're entrepreneurs. We're learning. Our day job is, I mean, you see the shirt, Chip Ganassi Racing Team Chevy. I mean, it's where I spend the bulk of my time. But when we can, we try to make a difference outside of here as well.
Okay, awesome. And then you mentioned the book. Where can people get copies of the book?
12secondculturebook.com. www.12secondculturebook.com.
Awesome, awesome. Well, before we wrap up, one question I always like to ask every guest that comes on is, when you think about, you know, what you've done and the type of work that you do, what's two pieces of advice you would share with other business owners?
I'd say first is like kind of to go back to what we said. I mean, I wasn't looking for leadership opportunities. I was looking for head pick crew coordinator opportunities. Life kind of does this thing where it presents doors, and sometimes the doors look like hard work. Sometimes those doors look like something that I'm not interested in. Or I mean, I had people tell me when I was getting started in this, like, you know, black people don't do NASCAR, right? And I mean, from other black people, you know. And if I had listened to that or listened to apprehension or fear, and they like I would have missed so much. I would miss Sean. I'd miss these guys I get to work with. Jim Ganassi Racing has been fun. The chance to lead Fortune. We're working with the number 10 company on the Fortune 500 list last year, right? So I would just say, like, don't rule anything out. And when you see doors open, have the courage to go through them. And you don't have to figure it out right out of the gate. A lot of people like to have plans and like have it all mapped out. There's no way I could have charted this for myself, and I wouldn't change that. And so there's always like these little nuances in life and these little like urges that you have. Like, man, that looked like it might be a fun opportunity or a fun job. I just say like be courageous and take it. And then last thing I would say is my favorite quote right now is the Stonecutter's Creed that talks about, oh man, I just lost my all right. That just says when when nothing seems to work, I go and look at a stonecutter hammering away at a rock as much as 100 times with nothing to show for it. And yet I know at the 101st blow, the rock will split in two, not because of that blow, but all the ones that came before it. And I feel like that's what I have to tell myself every day, man, as a man, a father, husband, but it's like with all that stuff for sure, but especially as an entrepreneur, because a lot of it is like on you to make it happen, right? Because it's your dream, it's your plane that you got to get off the ground. And so I would just say keep hitting that rock. And it might not feel like anything's going to happen, but that first blow, that 50th blow, that 100, like you're not doing anything different. The magic is in just the consistency of keep getting after it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on, sharing about your background, what you guys are doing with the, the pit crew, as well as deck leadership.
They're trying to run me out of the building, man. I'm getting the message.
I guess they need your help. So yeah,
maybe so. Yeah, maybe that's it. All right, I'll take it.
Definitely thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.
So I would just say, like, don't rule anything out. And when you see doors open, have the courage to go through them. And you don't have to figure it out right out of the gate. A lot of people like to have plans and like have it all mapped out. There's no way I could have charted this for myself and I wouldn't change that. And so there's always like these little nuances in life and these little like urges that you have. Man, that looked like it might be a fun opportunity or a fun job. I just say like be courageous and take it. And then last thing I would say is my favorite quote right now is the Stonecutter's Creed that talks about, oh man, I just lost my art. That just says when nothing seems to work, I go and look at a stonecutter hammering away at a rock as much as 100 times with nothing to show for it. And yet I know at the 101st blow, the rock will split in two, not because of that blow, but all the ones that came before it. And I feel like that's what I have to tell myself every day, man, as a man, a father, husband, but it's like with all that stuff for sure, but especially as an entrepreneur, because a lot of it is like on you to make it happen, right? Because it's your dream, it's your plane that you got to get off the ground. And so I would just say keep hitting that rock. Thank you for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like our content, be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want to see more of our exclusive content, you can subscribe and become a member on patreon.com/Business Talk Library. Hey, the Business Talk Library is the place where business makes sense.